Hello and welcome to Hey, I Love That Thing I Just Watched and I Really Want to Talk About It. I'm Helena,
I'm Dan.
And I'm Michael.
and today we are talking about the French film Poltergay. So I watched this film about a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, I don't know. It had an impact on me. I can't remember how I found it. I think it was just recommended to me on Prime. And it was one of those films where I looked at my partner looked at me, and we were like, we have to watch this film.
Yeah.
Mostly because of the title, but also because of the front cover is very, very gay, as you can imagine. And we kind of thought it was going to be like a horror movie. What with it being sort of on the line with Poltergeist and everything else. Not a horror movie, really.
No, I wouldn't call it a horror movie.
No, it's a comedy at best.
Yeah.
Like, it's a comedy.
It's a French language film set in Paris about a guy who they buy a house sort of on the cheap, and then he starts the guy who lives there starts seeing ghosts there, specifically 5 men who we find out died in a foam party related incident in the 70s because the basement was a gay bar.
Yeah, the foam got electrocuted or something, and
Yeah, the whole place blew up, essentially. What did you guys think of the film? Because I really enjoyed it.
I loved it. It was great. Like, it was...
Okay.
I was... You say that you were not expecting me to like it.
I don't know. Dan's not jumping with
I
joy.
really didn't enjoy this one.
Oh, okay.
I
Homophobe.
found it so
Yeah,
hard to
Because
connect.
you hate
Been through
gays.
this
No,
again.
it's the French, actually. No, I found it so hard to connect with this. Like, I'm normally fine with movies with subtitles as well, but where it was starting to lose me, it's not one that you can just not concentrate on. I really struggled with this one.
Fair.
Is it because of the subtitles?
Just a mix of all of it. Like, it really wasn't grabbing me. I was hoping it was nearly over and it had been half an hour.
Oh no. So yeah, the first thing I wanted to talk about was just that this film's not particularly old.
No, it's like 2006.
It came out in 2006, and it uses quite an offensive term quite a lot. The same way that we'd say like an F word for gay people back in 2006.
Which it also uses.
Which it also uses.
Yeah.
And lots of other slurs. And I think my issue with that, the reason that I think I didn't pick up on it the first time, because like when it's subtitles as well, you're not picking up on a lot of that kind of the language so much. But this time when I watched it, I was really paying attention. And it's one thing like in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, where they call each other slurs, but it's 2 gay people talking to each other. And it's convivial, and it's a joke, and it's a dig, and it's kind of reclaiming the word. But in this, it was a lot of straight people using it.
Yeah.
Which is different, and it just is, and it's just not okay. But apart from that, I love this film. It made me laugh so much. It's so silly.
Yeah.
Because it does like to flirt with the horror genre, but obviously it then goes straight back to ridiculous, over the top gay movie.
Yeah. It's not like... I went into this film fully expecting that kind of, like, gay exploitation, kind of... Everything's big and loud and very, like... very over the top. I went in fully expecting that kind of movie. And it isn't. Like, it's actually a really well-made movie.
Yeah. And I think it is actually quite sensitive.
Yeah.
In places. Not in every place, but... And, like, while there's 5 gay men in it, they're all different, and it shows you that, you know, there's not one way to be gay, which you often get in films, is like you have to be the effeminate shopping lover.
Yeah, and they're just 70s camp dancers, really.
Yeah.
The language, it's kind of like that. It's the kind of thing where it's like you will just brush past it 90% of the time, because it's just kind of how people talk to each other, especially in like 2006. And the one that caught me off was a very specific one that I guess we'll talk about when we get to it. But that really caught me off guard. and kind
Yeah,
of. But
I think it was probably the same one for me that I thought was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's not funny and it's not okay.
yeah, it's the term that makes you defensive.
Yeah.
Like that's it. But yeah, like overall, it's a really good film.
Yeah,
Should
like,
we get into?
there were bits that I did like I it feels like the kind of movie that I should really enjoy, but I just struggle with a lot
You're
of
waiting
it.
for the dub.
No, even then, like I just I just kind of lost me, but I did like I did like a few bits of it at least.
Good. So
Yeah.
it starts with they buy this house. His wife's an archaeologist, which doesn't really matter until the end.
Yeah.
But she travels for work, so she's got to go, and he's left. He first starts seeing them with her there. He sees these ghosts, but only he can see them, not her.
Well, he hears them. He hears
He hears
the,
well, he hears
Oh,
the
I
music.
hear the music. Yeah.
Ra Ra Rasputin plays every night at like what was it 5 to 1, 5 to 2 in
yeah,
the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was the
So
song.
he's seeing these. So he hears the music. He goes down. He manages like I think after the second day, or like a few days, he goes down to the cellar.
Well, they're like creeping on him for a day or
Yeah.
two because they like
Yeah.
take a picture of his ass in the shower.
Yeah, he's got a
That's-
Polaroid camera because they've just moved in. Like everything's everywhere, so there's like he like gets a Polaroid camera out and puts it on the side whilst like looking for shampoo and stuff.
Yeah, and it's that kind of like predatory gay man kind of thing bothered me, but it was also like after that point, it was like, oh, this is just fun. Like, this
Yes.
film is almost like horrifically offensive every now and then.
Yeah,
And-
it definitely toes the line, and I think if it didn't have the really touching moments in it,
Yeah.
it would be offensive. But it does actually balance it out, and I'll sort of talk a bit more about that when we get to it in the plot.
Yeah.
But there's some great bits where the guys are being so the first encounter we have with a ghost at all is when he's the main character. God knows what his name is.
Mark
Oh, Mark. Oh,
and his
Catherine.
wife was Emma.
Yeah.
Don't know why I remember that.
Wow,
Oh no, it's in my
okay.
notes. His
Oh.
friend was David.
Jesus.
About
Okay.
it.
Well done. So Mark bends over. He's playing. He's playing pool with David, and someone wolf whistles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But he just thinks it's his. He just thinks it's his mate,
Yeah.
like making it funny
Yeah.
because
trying to
his
tell him
friend
off.
is very homoerotic.
yeah. Although, yeah, that their relationship's that character's
Weird.
kind of like they don't
That
want to
character's.
say
He's
stuff.
got some sort of cuckolding fetish
They-
by the sounds of things.
Well, it felt more like a kind of beard relationship.
Yeah, or a beard.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's strange for a film to have that much dialogue about a character and then not actually
Yeah.
draw any conclusion. You're just left like, well, yeah, is it a beard? Is he a cuck? Like what's going on there?
It's kind of it's kind of like a weird. It's weird that they just kind of left it,
Yeah.
brought it up that much.
So like a few other strange things happen, that you can't quite explain, and then he finally all comes to a head, where he goes down to the cellar and he sees them all, and they're just these blokes. They've got the music blaring. They're drinking wine, and dancing in his cellar, and he's like,
Get out.
"Get the fuck out of my cellar!" And he starts screaming and shouting at them, saying he's going to call the police.
Which at this point he's already called the police before, and they don't believe him because
Oh yeah,
Why
they
would
called
they?
the police because they haven't stolen anything. All they've done was paint a dick on his wall
yeah,
Yeah.
and build his wardrobe and iron his clothes,
yeah,
Yeah.
which was quite funny.
yeah. And at the same time, like he's getting stressed out at work because his boss is a dick.
Yeah, his boss is a dick. He's kind of also not a very good worker. He's kind of always late because obviously weird things are happening to him.
I mean, he's
Um,
fired for good reason, but his boss is also a dick.
Yeah, definitely. His boss is really just horrible to him. But before that happens, he's shouting and screaming at them to leave, and then his wife comes downstairs and is like,
The fuck is going on?
what is going on? And he's like, well, look, and I love this the way in this film how they cut between obviously what he can see and what she can see.
It's great.
And then so she calls their friend David to come and look and be like, there's nothing there either.
Mm.
So there's one of my favorite bits is where he's like, see, and it's just him in an empty cellar, like
Yeah.
gesturing around the room.
Yeah,
And obviously they're like, you're crazy.
yeah.
And he's like, well, that's not true. I'm not crazy. But then he's like, but I am seeing these ghosts that no one else can see. Maybe I am crazy. And his wife's like, look, you need to see someone. it all culminates with like he's chasing the ghosts around the house, trying to chase them away, and he accidentally assaults her dad.
Yeah,
he's chasing them around with a cross, which makes sense because like
the ghosts.
Another great bit is where he flings the tries to like
he uses the cross and
brandish
like,
the cross at someone, and the Jesus the Jesus just flies off it and wedges itself in the door.
Yeah.
No, that's ominous.
But
yeah, so he accidentally assaults her dad, and obviously that's like the final straw for his wife.
With
He's like, "Look,
shovel.
I'm going."
He almost kills him. It's not even like he's not like, oh, it was a gentle. No, he swings it hard into his stomach.
So his dad's very pissed off. She's very pissed off. They leave, and he's kind of fired like pretty much the same day or the next day. He's like given loads of pills by his friend to like sleep.
Yeah.
And then they tell him to go to a psychiatrist.
Yeah, so he goes to our psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist. This is the scene that I really didn't like. Is the psychiatrist? He's like explaining all of this, like what he's seeing, what's happening with his life, and the fact that he's seeing these 5 gay dudes in his basement. And the guy is like taking notes the whole time, and then says, "You're gay. You're having fantasies about men because you're repressing that you're gay."
Yeah.
And then when he moves, and he moves the paper, like at the end, he's like, your time's up, €45, like, bugger off, see you next time. Which isn't how therapy works, for the record, just in case anyone's thinking about getting into it. They're normally a little bit better than that. And but he sees the guy's notes, and all he's done is write the letters P and D, and then like circled it loads.
Yeah.
Which just it's like a slur in French, and it's kind of like the equivalent of like if you opened your soul up to like a therapist and they'd written fag in like and that's it, like they hadn't even considered treating you, or that there might be something else going. Not that I think they should think that necessarily that ghosts are real.
No, but
because your therapist, you really don't want a therapist that jumps to that conclusion.
Clearly other stuff happening.
But yeah, the fact that that's all he does, that was like, it was not okay. And it's also
not funny either.
Not funny. Yeah.
No, the rest of the film's alright, and then there's just every now and then.
That scene was just bad because it's 2 straight people. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so he goes off and he's like trying to convince himself that actually no, he might be gay.
Yeah, so he's trying to dip his toe in the gay waters.
And then like there's some funny stuff there.
I like the bit where he tells his friend David, and he just doesn't care, and he's like, "Hey, where should I hang this painting?"
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, coming out to David, David's like, "Oh yeah, whatever."
Yeah.
Like, cool, okay.
And then,
to be fair, I think telling your friend that you're seeing 5 like
it's
ghosts,
easier,
gay ghosts, and it's like, okay, and then like give them a day to one, and I'm like, I'm gay, and I'm like,
well, that makes sense. You know what? That psychiatrist might be right.
I can accept that one. That one, in my brain makes a bit more sense.
And then he comes. He does the same with his family. Is it his family?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're the same reaction of like, so you might just be a fairy. And then is it his grandma? I've completely lost track of like who the people were, but he was sat around with like a family of people.
Yeah.
And like the grandma said, well, back home I had a very attractive neighbour.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's like, it's weirdly accepting that they're just like, well, actually, it's fine. He's expecting this sort of big blow up, and actually everyone's kind of like, whatever.
Yeah,
cool.
I lived next to a very attractive neighbour. She was great. Anyway.
Oh yeah, she's like, oh, your dad's pretty shit in bed, so I had to get it somewhere.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, that was great.
So he goes to a gay bar and hooks up with a guy.
Yeah.
They don't actually do anything. The guy immediately knows he's straight as well. Like none of the actual gay people are even like remotely convinced at all.
No.
They call him straight bait and are like, yeah, why are you here? But this guy's down to have a go, especially when he finds out that he works on a construction site.
Yeah.
And is like trying to get him to put his hard hat on and stuff like that. They get caught by the same
police.
There's obviously there's 2 police officers
in Paris.
In Paris.
There's only 2 or 3 police.
But that's important because these police officers they catch them basically starting to, like, this guy gets his dick out, but before Mark's had a chance to really do anything.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to.
So they get locked. They get taken to the cells for the night and left in the morning.
Yeah. At which point his wife's dad comes around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he comes around. He's gonna collect the car, and Emma's like, please don't be in. But obviously he's got nowhere else to go, so of course he's gonna be in.
Yeah.
Expecting the dad to just pick up the car and leave, but the gays, the ghosts,
yeah,
the ghosts are having a party.
The poltergeist,
village people party.
The poltergeist are having a having a ghost party, as they want to do.
Yeah.
Trying to cheer up Mark, because at this point he is pretty devastated.
Yeah, he's accepted,
and they are
kind of
feeling very
accepted
bad.
that they're ghosts as well.
Yeah.
Like he's...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They find out that they find a newspaper and realize that it's been 30 years.
Yeah, he accepts their ghosts, so he's just kind of dealing, like letting them exist. Yeah, and then the dad comes round, and it turns out that the dad can see them too.
Yeah.
Because he's like, the dad like says, "Oh, I forgot this," and like gets it, and then at the end,
he gets
just
the keys,
before
yeah.
he gets the keys, and he just goes, "Gentlemen," and shuts the door, and they
Yeah.
all say goodbye, and then he's like, "What?"
Yeah.
And they find out, that he can see them too.
Yeah, and then you learn
So he's not crazy.
the rules of these ghosts. And then he gets he calls her like an exorcist.
He does, and this was my favourite joke. I say joke. My favourite bit of the whole movie is that every time the priest shows up, he just has a Macca's with him.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he loves
Like-
McDonald's. Did you catch when he makes eyes at the McFlurry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has like the best expression.
I
Like there's genuine hunger and lust in his eyes for some ice cream.
didn't understand that character.
No, he was a bit all over the place.
Because like he was a villain.
They had to
He-
get the promotion in somewhere.
No, but he was like presented as a villain now.
Yeah.
I can't tell if like watching it now I'm like that character's presented as a villain because he's saying like the worst shit in the world. Or
Well, he's like, well, how to get rid of them, and he's kind of cruel, where he's like, well, just move the stones and they'll get stuck in limbo, and you won't have to deal with them.
he also
Yeah.
like continues. He keeps calling it like that when they were going through their night of debauchery and the this is how you deal with pederasts, and it's like I can't tell if this is a villainous character or a character that's pretty normal of its time.
Yeah.
That is like the weirdest part. But I fucking hated him.
Yeah, no, he's not a nice guy. I don't think you're supposed to like him.
But he gets like a weird kind of redemption at the end. Like he's never a villain
Yeah.
when he probably should have been. I was thinking
And
like,
he what he does do is he goes and finds out how they can, like, why they're there, which is to do with the fact that it's some sort of burial site thing, and there's
Yeah.
these cornerstone
Templar
temple.
thing, yeah.
yeah.
And there's these 4 cornerstones of the house that they're trapped in, and that they're going to be released in a long time.
Yeah,
Um,
I was expecting the priest to be evil. Like I was expecting him to be doing something bad, and he just wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of expect it to be like, well, he's then going to take it upon himself to exercise them, even though Mark doesn't actually want them to be exercised anymore because they're kind of pals now.
Or like
But I don't really go down that route.
or he'll exercise them and send them to hell in that kind of way. But no, they just didn't do that.
Yeah, and there's no like mention of what will happen when they go through limbo. It's not like, oh yeah, they're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
It doesn't go down that like all gays go to hell kind of route,
Yeah.
which it could have done.
Yeah, it's kind of like in a weird sort of thing. But yeah, they find these cornerstones, which is like where the ghosts can't leave. That's
Yeah.
like where they can't leave. So they decide to go on a night out.
Yeah, and this was my favourite bit of the film. It's so touching.
Yeah. This was after. So his friend now knows that the ghosts
Yeah,
are
his
real.
friend believes about the ghost because he's spoken to the other guy.
Yeah.
And
And has
they're
seen
like, oh, okay, you
stuff
can.
floating around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That seems really lovely. He proves to them that they exist by them floating pool balls around.
Yeah.
Like, as in pool table
Yeah.
snooker balls.
And then,
And it looks really pretty and it's really beautifully
It's really
animated. And then it cuts back to obviously what Mark can see, and they just look ridiculous because they're all like standing around
Yeah.
this tree holding the
great.
balls.
It's great.
And there's some great lines about like, oh, do you like my pretty balls?
It's great. And yeah, we learned that the only people who can see them are straight men. Are like men that have never had any sexual acts with other men.
Oh, yeah, and like, well, it's anyone who's not had sexual
Yeah.
stuff with a man.
Yeah.
Because women, non-virgin straight women, can't see them.
Yeah. But the reason given was like, oh, because they want something they can't have. Oh, we're back to the whole predatory gay men thing.
Yeah.
Ugh. But also, like, this is what I mean. The film is like, it teeters on that, like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind
It
of
really
bad.
does, and that's why I found it like, I think that's why I brought it up and I was like, oh, we should talk about this film, but then I'm like, but should
But-
we? It's like there's a lot going on in it that's like,
But the fun bits are really fun. Like, the
Yeah.
fun bits are really fun.
and they find out, they put all these cornerstones in the car.
Yeah, they
They
take
can
them,
all
they go
fit
out
in the
for a
car
night.
and they can go out, and these guys are so excited because they're partiers.
Yeah.
These guys died in a club, like they love going out.
Yeah.
They've not been out in 30 years, and they drive around
Listening
Paris,
to the
and they
same
get
song.
so excited because they see all the openly gay things in Paris.
It's so sweet.
They're like, oh, the Eiffel Tower's still here, but then it's also like there's like obviously LGBTQ travel agents. There's a Pride bookstore. There's all sorts, and they're just really happy.
Yeah.
And they see like a gay hairdressers, and they're like, hey, gays.
Yeah.
And they're really happy about that, and it's really sweet.
And then
And it's also really sweet the way that Mark is also like, okay, yeah, let's give them a night on the town. Like, let's do
let's
this.
go out.
Like,
yeah.
he's like really like he understands that they're real people, and even though they're ghosts, like they do want to do some stuff.
Yeah, I think it was. You also learned at that point that because his friend can't see the ghosts, his friend is not completely straight. Is kind of the conclusion.
That's the thing. It's like,
yeah.
Yeah, is he gay, or has he just had to do medical stuff to men's bums?
Yeah, but
and their balls and stuff? Because he works in like he's not a doctor but like a medical professional.
Yeah, but
he does a lot of health checks and tests and stuff, including someone fireman, which gets the poltergays very riled up.
yes, yeah, but they never like fully go into it, and it's such a weird loose end of this film.
Because his wife's also a total.
I think it's a beard situation.
Yeah, it's like it's not a subtle beard.
No,
she's not doing a very good job.
No,
because she's hitting on everyone,
beards.
including Mark,
one of those
who she then throws
beards.
under the bus later and says that he hit on her, which obviously never happened.
Yeah.
But she flirts with loads of other people. She's like, he's always dropping in. Oh yeah, her Cuban dance teachers. Like she only pays for an hour, but she's there all evening.
Yeah.
And there's lots of like references to her, and like there's the scene at the end where she's definitely like dancing up and with her Cuban partner, and he's just like, oh hey honey.
Yeah, I think at one point he's like, "Oh yeah, she's gone on holiday with this whole team. She's the only woman on the team." Like, yeah.
Then we get to the best part, which is the night out, where they go to all these nightclubs.
Yep.
And they get to dance inside the square, and they're not allowed to leave the square.
And there's a bit where there's like this guy that's pole dancing.
Yeah.
And they all just have their faces like smushed
Yeah.
up against the screen.
It's great. And then we get like because this film's like weird bits. It teeters into that like not okay territory. And then it like leans back into like actual heartfelt moments that it probably doesn't deserve. Like it's like Mark goes up to one of the when they're on the night out, he goes up to one of the bars and sees a picture of one of the like the head ghost.
Yeah.
And is like he recognizes him, and the bartender's like, "Oh, that's a picture of me and my partner." But he died 30 years ago. And it's like, oh,
yeah,
it's so sad.
No, it's really sweet. And like, yeah, the guy he'd already asked him to track him down.
Yeah, because
the
it
ghost
was
had been
only
like,
him
yeah,
that
actually,
called him
yeah,
Huggy or
this
something.
was the love
Yeah.
of my life. Yeah, Nunu.
Huggy. Something.
And then so that's why they go to that bar as well.
Yeah,
it's still a gay bar somehow in Paris.
That's fair. No, that's
yeah.
gay bars last. they like they're very hard to shift.
But yeah, so they that's really sweet. It's a really sweet moment because he's like, oh, no, only one person called me that.
Yeah, it's really nice.
But he's also a bit bewildered because this guy is clearly like
30 years too young.
Late 20s.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, that just doesn't work at all.
Yeah. But it's really sweet, and it's like it takes a weird emotional swing there, and it works. Like honestly, it works.
Then they sort of all start having this weird epileptic seizure and wearing contact lenses, or like they have like yellowed out eyes, and it turns out that they actually have to go back home.
Yeah, they need to be in the house
at least before midnight.
But
They're
by
kind
the
of
time they
Cinderella's.
died, like the 5 to 2.
And the priest is in his car at the checkout, at the drive-in.
He's at the drive-through, yeah.
And he's ordering like more food.
Yeah.
He's ordering a quarter pounder while he's on the phone telling him, and he's so rude to the woman working. I'm like, dude. Oh man, I hate him so much.
Yeah, no, he's a total wanker in this film, but
every level.
It is quite. I just don't know why they were like, yeah, and so the Exorcist guy is gonna really like McDonald's. It's like, okay,
yeah, because
I guess maybe someone suggested that and then went for it. Maybe they're like looking around the room and there was just some empty McDonald's.
That would
and
be
they were
funny.
Like,
Yeah.
So they get back to the put all the
house.
cornerstones back in place, and the ghosts sort of ping back to life, and they're like, oh, that's better.
Yeah.
And they are like, well, we want to help we're going to help you get your wife back.
Yeah, so he writes a note, he writes a letter, goes to sleep, and then one of the guys rewrites the letter.
Yeah.
And quotes a poem, really romantic poem, and sends it, and then he gets a call because his wife is reading the note at like a bus stop, and she wants to try again, and she calls in. They're like, "Oh, have dinner," and he's like, it's that thing where he's surrounded by people telling him what to say on the phone, which is the most stressful situation anyone can ever be in. Is when you're on the phone and someone is telling you what to say on the phone. It's awful.
What we missed out the bit is that he has this moment where he spots her on her way home back to her dad's.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a wheelbarrow full of gay ghosts.
Yeah, full of
that he's got
poltergeist.
to try and get back into the car and into the
Back to the house.
Back to the house. And he has this moment like, does he follow her now or does he wait?
Yeah.
And make sure the ghosts are okay. And he picks the ghosts.
And he gets pulled over again.
Yes,
He gets pulled over by the same two. Well, 3 policemen at this point.
Yeah.
But
And
only
one of them, only one of them
see it.
can see.
Which says a lot. Like, it's the ultimate gaydar is having 5 gay ghosts follow you that only only straight people can see.
Yeah. So this was obviously the straight. What we find out now, the straight never been sexual with a man police officer can see these like obviously really sparked out ghosts in the back, and the other 2 can't. And they're like, he's like, "Oh, you've got these 5 people in the back," and they're like.
Mark
No,
is
he
like,
hasn't.
"No, I don't. Who are you talking
And then the other
about?"
2 are like, "No." So they wave him on, and then like the other guy's like, "Oh
Top.
my god!" And they're like, "Take a holiday."
Top tier gaslighting. The ultimate gaslighting.
But yeah, it's a really like funny. It's a good payoff.
Yeah, it's solid. This film has solid bits. There's just bits that are like, ugh.
Yeah, it's a genuinely mixed bag.
Yeah.
But yeah, which is why I thought it'd be fun to talk about it really.
Yeah,
because they then do a bit of a makeover
to the house and everything.
They tidy up the house. They get rid of the pool table because she hated the pool table. They make it into a really, really like
they're trying to work out
bougie French looking sitting room.
They're trying to work out who's doing the baking, who's doing the icing on the cake.
Yes,
and the artist character can only do the dick picture.
Yeah, so the art one, he only does what we find out was the logo for the gay club, which he'd been putting everywhere, including sewing it into cushions, putting on the walls, putting it on the back of his coat.
When you have a good design, you do it.
Yeah, it's a good design.
Great design.
It's a little willy with wings, kind of bat wings. Great. Yeah, it's good. Anyway, he does that on the cake, and they're like, no. So they get the guy that claims he's not gay, but is definitely gay.
Yep.
And is wearing plaid trousers. He
also,
does it.
That's also the 70s. Like, to be fair.
Oh yeah, no, the costumes are
70s.
accurate.
Top tier.
So he makes a plaid pudding.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great. But they help him, like, they also make make a new fancy shirt for him out of wallpaper.
Yeah.
They're very creative. And they all work together to put on this really good spread.
Yeah.
And choose the music, and they tell him what to say, like reminding him basically how to be a decent human being,
a good husband.
Because I think he wasn't exactly a good husband before.
No.
So it is a bit like they're prompting him, but also it's a bit sad in that. And I'm like, well, doesn't she deserve someone who doesn't need that prompted?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's like ask her about work, ask her about this, like,
and then they coach him through sex. Which is...
Yeah, they're still watching when they get into bed together, which is weird, but then they do leave.
Yeah, it's, and yeah, like you were about to say, they get the cake, and because everything's too nice, she's a bit suspicious. She's a bit like, is someone else doing something? He's like, no, she's like, oh yeah, you're weird again, but in a good way. And he's like, oh. So he goes in and just, like,
he squishes the cake.
Yeah, he squishes the cake, and the plaid guy just starts kind of
he's so
crying.
upset,
and the other ones are like cuddling him.
He worked so hard on that cake.
My cake.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, bless, because he did work really hard on it, and they want it to be perfect, but
it can't be.
It can't be perfect because it's so clearly not him, and like they trip up again by like doing a Marquise apple, which is like a really delicate way of cutting an apple that he obviously doesn't know how to do.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, do it again, and they have to sort of panic, and then it's like, oh, let's dance. And anyway, it works because she's in love with him, but then she's come back. One thing she has for work is a video camera.
Yeah.
And
which you get is the only important thing about her job that is important to the story.
She's found a mosaic of people having
that's true. Having butt sex.
having anal sex, yeah.
No,
in
she
Pompeii.
calls it butt sex, which is
they do
weird for an archaeologist.
They call it butt fucking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
butt
butt
fucking.
fucking.
Because the guy's like, oh look, they're wrestling. She's like, nope, they're definitely butt fucking.
butt fucking. Which is
And then he looks at it and he goes, yeah, no, they are definitely butt fucking.
archaeologist's language there.
So she's got this camera, and then she finds a film on it of the ghost, and we find out, actually you can see them through
Camera, yeah.
the camera, and so the jig is up in that respect, in that like now she knows, okay, he
It
has
was
been getting
real.
help, but also it's real.
He's not
and
insane.
the whole part where he was like, I'm seeing 5 gay men walking around the house was real,
Yeah.
and not a psychotic break.
I like that when she's like runs around with the camera and she sees them go through a wall, and she's like, oh god, they went through a wall, and he's like, yeah, that's what ghosts do. He's like the most casual thing in the world about
Yeah,
it.
at this point he's like, because he's so accepted it, he's
Yeah.
just kind of
That's just
he's
how ghosts do.
choosing to roll with her being sort of okay with it by not like making a big deal of it.
Yeah, it's
She's like,
great.
oh wow,
Solid.
and then she's like, oh hello, and they're all like hello, and they're all like getting in the shot.
Yeah,
Um,
it's lovely. It's
yeah, and she's like, oh okay, this is great, and
and then they find out how the priest comes back with his McDonald's.
yeah, he comes back with more McDonald's, and he's like, look, I've done the calculations, and you guys will be set free in
700 years.
in 700 years time.
Uh,
So be patient. And then he's got that horrible smile, and he thinks it's kind of funny.
yeah,
And then he fucks off.
Villain
It's like,
character
go
that
away.
never gets
Yeah.
a come up and annoys me.
Um,
So they're 700 years. They don't know what to do. 9 months later, they've turned because that's it. No, it's just hit me. There are where the place she's digging. Sorry, it only just made sense to me that the place she's digging up is where they got the Roman ghosts from.
yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So they bring over some
Yeah,
gay,
Totally just
Roman
hit
ghosts
me.
for them, because so
Yeah.
they have some new people to hang out with.
Yeah.
But they also return the basement into its former gay glory.
yeah. They turn it into.
I mean,
a night...
it's got like men and women in it.
Yeah, they turn it
but
into a
it's
nightclub called Pompeii
nightclub.
because that was where the bathhouse was that she was discovering.
Yeah.
And it's like loads of Romans, and it's really
Yeah, because they've got cameras and TVs set up so that the people that can't see the ghosts can see them.
huge
Yeah.
revelation, by the way. If that came out as like a story anywhere, if
Yeah.
someone was like, "There's a nightclub in France that has ghosts," what? They have gay ghosts in the nightclub.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Well, yeah, on the cameras you can see.
Well, maybe it's been out for a month, and at this point, everyone's just gone back to like, oh, okay,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
it's
cool.
normal.
Oh, yeah, that's the gay nightclub.
I think it would
ghost
take
place.
more than a month for people to get over that. Number one, ghosts are real. And
I
you
mean, it
can
was busy,
see
so
them on
maybe
a
they're
camera.
still living on that hype.
That's true. But that's not a difficult thing for nightclubs to capitalize on.
Yeah, it ends on this really sort of positive note. She's pregnant. They're really excited.
Yeah,
The
the
guy that's not gay, I keep saying he's not gay, meets another ghost who's like,
He's
oh,
not-
you know,
I was at the bathhouse because I was.
I was having what does he say? I was having a wash.
Yeah,
And it's like, I'm not, and he's like,
neither am I.
I'm not either.
Yeah,
And like, then they have a little sort of
the most awkward
cuddle.
kiss.
Yeah.
And then
Nunu or Huggy is reunited.
yeah, with those two, and
with
they look at each other on the
yeah.
camera.
Yeah.
It's so
And
sweet.
It's really nice, and everyone sort of gets what they wanted.
Wild
and-
emotional swing, like a wild emotional
And then
swing. at the
even
end.
the dad that obviously he beat to almost death with a shovel.
yeah,
He had to wear a neck brace. Like he was obviously clearly hurt. Is like, you've really turned it around. I'm really impressed.
yeah,
And you're not like, you don't have to like him because obviously he was a bit of a bastard. But when you think about it, like this guy he wasn't a very nice husband.
no,
And then
like
he has
that.
apparently like a weird psychotic break, and then he assaults you.
yeah,
Like you don't have to be his biggest fan.
no. But I get once you
Um,
realise that hey, he didn't have a psychotic break. He was being haunted by gay ghosts.
Yeah.
And like, oh yeah, some of his behaviour makes more sense now.
Yeah.
His more extreme behaviours make more sense.
But I love that they go and they manage to find more gay ghosts to them. I don't quite get the logic of how they managed to keep them away from Pompeii for long enough. But then I'm like, I don't care at this point. Let the film end.
They created one rule for these ghosts, and then they created one hard and fast rule for those ghosts: is they have to stay within the boundaries. And then they went, you know what, fuck it.
Well, but they can move the boundary, but then they had to get back to
Yeah,
the house.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
the rule.
So obviously they've moved the stones from. Maybe they just put the whole thing.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
that's why it's called Pompeii.
That's
They
called
bought
Pompeii.
Pompeii with it.
Because she was like, well, you can't put this on an exxibition. And they were like,
proved-
why not? Because there's butt fucking. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she proved
You know where that would
ghosts
go?
were real.
Gay bar in my basement.
How about I keep it? No, but I proved the ghosts here are real. And number two, they're gay buttfuck ghosts.
Yeah.
I mean, how
And
about-
also, would it be nice for these gay
Yeah.
Roman ghosts to meet these gay 70s ghosts?
Yeah, how about I get to keep all this? How about I get to keep this landmark? This is historical landmark that I discovered.
I really enjoyed this film. I had a really nice time watching it. I do think it definitely like crosses the line a couple of times.
Yeah.
And for some people, I could totally understand that being too far and like it ruining the whole experience.
Yeah.
But and I think there's probably films where in an English language that might be harder for me to swallow as well, just because the meaning of the words obviously has way more weight.
Mm.
But for me, it really bounces back hard on the other side, and I thought it was really sweet and actually really, like, it's just a really nice, positive
fun
film
film.
about a bunch of gay ghosts in a basement.
It's well made. Like it is.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
it's well shot. There's like the
technically
weird
well made.
cat vision at the start that's just like a little riff on horror movies that I thought was a really nice touch.
Yeah.
Um,
It does start with the trope of like, oh, this couple are going into this weird old house, and ooh,
yeah, and the cat doesn't like it. Yeah,
What-
it's
what kind of idiots are they for moving into this obviously haunted house? And I used to think that until I went into an old abandoned hotel, and I went, oh, it'd be cool to live here. Was my first thought. So I'm one of those people.
Hmm.
I will admit it. I went into
you're gonna get haunted.
I went into a very cool, like 6-story old motel that had like it looked amazing, and my first thought was, it'd be really cool to live here. It had like a huge safe in the basement that
Oh, nice.
they didn't know how to open. The landlords didn't know how to open. My first thought was, this would be cool to live here. My second thought would, I'd die in a horror movie.
Yes.
I'd, like, I'd get
Unless,
killed
of
in a horror
course,
movie.
inside the safe was 5 really splendid men
That's true.
who just want to party,
Best
dance
time ever.
to Boney. What's his name? Boney M.
Boney M. Yeah,
Boney M. Yeah, and
I'd love that.
Yeah.
I'd be so happy with that.
so for me, I would give this. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10,
Yeah,
and I think that's 7 tender moments in this film.
yeah.
Because it's so cute, and it is really I really enjoyed it, and I probably will watch it again. And it's just nice to have a fairly recent gay movie that's not super sad.
Yeah, right.
And like
Fucking
there's
right.
I mean, I think by it being 70s ghost as well, they do kind of not have to touch on the AIDS stuff without it
yeah,
ruining
there is
the,
a-
because obviously that's a tonal shift that you maybe don't want in a horror comedy.
There is a danger period. There is like a
Um,
we can't have any ghosts from this era. Yeah, no,
So I think it handles it's actually, yeah, it's either super delicate or it's a sledgehammer. There's sort of not very much in between
Yeah.
with how they deal with the issue. So it obviously it loses points for that. Otherwise, I think it'd be a really solid film.
It's like a sledgehammer with a feather duster on the end, like on the handle.
yeah. I think I agree. 7. 7 times Rasputin is played.
Yes, they
it's a
bought the
lot.
rights to that film and they made the most
They're
of
gonna
it.
use it. They're gonna play that song. Great. It's a good film. It was way better than I was expecting it to be. It's way more like well-rounded as a
Yeah,
film.
that's what I thought was so funny about it, because obviously I was going in the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is going to be shit, but there's a good chance it'll be so bad it's funny.
Yeah,
And it's not. It's just genuinely quite good.
like it's a
And it was like nice to watch and like quite weirdly heartwarming.
yeah.
For what it sets out to be.
Yeah, like it's remarkably well-rounded. Like it was made by people who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Which was surprising, because normally these kinds of films with titles like Poltergay are kind of made left-handed with no, like, they're made with like no budget and no real like care.
Yeah.
And this one was.
Yeah.
It was very funny. Bits of it was very funny.
So Dan,
Yeah, I feel like I'm just going to disappoint you guys a lot.
Yeah, but we know why you didn't like this film.
yeah.
Yeah, bloody French. Yeah, no, I struggled to connect with it. So much of it just felt like an overly extended YouTube skit to me. Like,
Fair.
I just couldn't. I don't know. I couldn't get to grips with it as a movie. It didn't get my interest enough. Like, it genuinely seems like a movie that I should have enjoyed, and maybe I wasn't in the right mindset. I don't know. I just didn't have a great time watching it. Like, I enjoyed some bits, but
That's fine.
yeah,
That's
I'd
fine
probably
then.
Your opinion is your own, and it's
Yeah.
valid.
No,
It's
no,
fine.
some opinions are wrong. And that's
yeah.
fine.
We'll make you watch it again, but
Yeah.
maybe after, like, you know, a Pride event or something when you're just feeling really positive and really
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
And then we can watch it then and see if your
Make you-
opinion
Yeah.
changes of it, because, you know, it's wrong and you should like this film.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought it to the table. So thank you for humouring me.
Yeah, maybe this is this how
Mikey.
you felt
Yeah.
about The Dead Don't Die? Maybe it is.
That film was awful.
No,
Yeah.
but I fully
Really
admit
did.
that film is awful. I fully
Yeah.
admit that film is awful. I just like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'd probably give this 3 times that it influenced me to order a Macca's breakfast this morning.
That's
I-
genuinely
It's
lower than I was.
fascinating that you identify with that character.
The wanker.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Don't go with that, Dan.
No, definitely not. Like, obviously the subtitles and the like translation and stuff didn't massively help either. Like, you guys caught a lot more than I did. I had no idea about that sort of French word that's incredibly derogatory. I'd not heard of it before, so I didn't pick up on that whatsoever. Like, there was a lot that just kind of blew past
I
me,
looked
I
it up.
guess.
It's not like I knew.
Yeah.
Actually, I did. When they started saying it, I was like, I need to find out how okay this is, because obviously it's a different language to ours. We don't speak it, and there's
Yeah.
words that are seemingly might not sound fine in English that aren't fine.
Yeah.
So, like, homo, for example, I think in French can be okay. It's not used so much anymore, but it's not technically offensive. But in English, like, if you call someone a homo, like, it's just got more of a
Such
slur tone to it.
Weird era of insult.
Yeah, it's like the no homo era.
It's like if someone calls you a puff, it's like, what? Are
Yeah.
you from the mid 80s? What the fuck?
Yeah. Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, it's such a weird sort of thing
and like,
to
yeah,
say.
fairy as well, which obviously is in both languages.
Yeah.
Was a bit like,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
these
It
old people.
Feels outdated in 2006. Like, it feels
Um,
weird.
I did look into it. I found like a French like gay dictionary, and it was a bit overwhelming because, like English, there's just 10,000 different
Yeah.
ways of saying it that are equal. Like, and it's it's just like, yeah, so much historical and social context as to whether it's okay or not.
Yeah. There's no way of really
that I
knowing.
was like, I can't navigate this like until I am a gay man in Paris, which seems unlikely.
Yeah, it's gonna
I'm
be a
not
bit of a-
gonna, I'm not
If-
going to really get to grips with it.
No, unless you
Um,
end up doing some sort of body
Body
swap.
Mm.
Wrong film, Dan. We know you didn't like this film, but come on.
It's a lovely film, and
It's
you're wrong.
Surprisingly sweet film.
And yeah, with that, I've been Helena.
I've been
I've-
Michael. I'm saying
And-
it this time, no Dan.
That's fine.
I've been Michael.
And I've been Dan.
And we did this bonus episode as part of Pride Month, and yeah, it's I'd say give this a watch.
Yeah,
I think maybe because I speak a bit of French, I'd struggle a lot less with the subtitles. I don't really need them for a lot of like the short dialogue.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps.
I don't want to brag.
And obviously, seeing a film in a second language, if you've already seen it, is a lot
to follow.
easier.
Yeah.
a lot easier.
So Dan,
Other
watch it
reasons
again.
why Dan might be wrong.
Watch it again, Dan.
basically.
Watch it again.
Watch it again where I don't have to look away to make notes. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Might
probably
help.
didn't help.
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Hilton Pod. That's at HILTM Pod. We are also on Discord, and
Yeah.
we have a Patreon now.
We do have a
If you feel that way inclined.
Patreon, and on this Patreon, we're going to buy a house from the 70s that used to be a. We're going to buy a house, turn it into a 70s themed gay nightclub.
Yeah, we're going to get a
And
mosaic.
only play
from
French
Pompeii.
songs.
Yeah, then we're going to
It's
kill
not
some
gonna be
people
successful.
in it, and then in a couple years.
Michael,
gonna
you
have
weren't
them
supposed to
as
mention that
ghosts.
bit on the podcast.
We're gonna have them
What
as
did we say?
ghosts.
It's no murder on the podcast.
Yeah, the problem is only I would be able to see the ghost by this film's logic. So
That is true. Then it's no
Yeah.
longer our problem.
No.
So that's the plan. That's what we're going to do with your money this time. Buy a house, turn it into a nightclub, sabotage the nightclub, and then the payoff is in like 30 years' time when some straight couple buys it.
And honestly, with the housing market, we'll make a fuck ton
We
in
will.
30
We
years.
will make a fortune in 30 years.
Yeah, that's where the real money
That's
comes
where
from.
the real long-term plan is.
This is an investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a property investment, but not the way you'd think it is. But not your grandma's property investment.
Yeah, it's Zoopla with more murder.
We're going to invest in ghosts.
How's your mold mug doing?
It's still there. I don't want to look at it again. Last time I looked at it too long ago, I got queasy. I genuinely
That's the spores.
I genuinely felt faint. So I'm just not going to look at it anymore.
When I say that mug will be the death of you, I'm not
No, it will.
actually
No.
sarcastic. Yeah.
I'm not taking it as sarcasm in any way.
If some sort of zombie apocalypse happens, we know that Michael is patient zero.
Or I'll be
Or
immune.
the cure.
Yeah. I'll be immune and you'll all be running to me mold mug.
Quick, off the mold mug.